So welcome to the afternoon session, and I think in the afternoon we're really turning our attention to people. I would say we're turning our attention to people. We're also, let's see if it works, we're going to turn our attention to another part of the world. So maybe, is it possible that we can bring up on the screen? Oh my goodness, there you go. Hello, Philippe. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone.
You're on mute.
I should be fine.
Say it again.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Oh, hey, Philippe. So, I know you care very much about Aspire, but can you tell people where you are today?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm currently for an assignment in San Jose in Costa Rica. It's 7:40 a.m. Here, and I wish I'd be there with you. So it's great to see you, and it's great to participate in the session.
Philip, wait. Philip, what's the temperature there? What's the weather like over there?
It's probably, well, it's, maybe you can see it through the windows. It's beautiful. It's sunny, and it's around 25 Celsius. Yes, that's what it is.
Do you have any more jobs out there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Come over.
Do you have an association? I can set one of those up.
Not the one like Aspire.
Can you see us?
Yes, I can see you very well, and I can hear well. So that's perfect.
Okay. Anyway, so you're here for this afternoon. You're joining us for this afternoon session. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. We are running behind, so I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I'm going to hand over to Vic and Yola. Okay?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for coming back from lunch. I don't know what we did to Andrew that he put us as the first session after lunch, which is always the most challenging one, but hopefully we're going to wake people up with some great discussion with our guests on stage.
So, no hugs, right, Harry? We're not doing the hugs, right?
No. So workforce, workplace, and ways of working. Gosh, how do we do it in 30 minutes? Well, we won't. That's the answer. What we did when we started preparing for the session is we were thinking, okay, so what do we do? I mean, we can talk about AI, we can talk about the offices, and all the different topics. So what we decided to do is really go and talk to some of our, member companies, team leaders, managers, and when you give them that theme, what is it that first comes to their mind as the most important topic to focus on? And funny enough, it wasn't in N&I, it was in hybrid working. It was something that I personally feel we don't talk much enough, we don't talk about a lot, is generations and managing cross-generational teams. Maybe we do talk about it, but it's more in the way of anecdotes and challenges and things that we don't understand. But actually, my personal view, and we'll hear from our colleagues here, it's something that's going to, impact us in the future and how we run our businesses, and actually how we can run them efficiently as we have and continue to be successful. Because if we don't, then we're going to come back to the old topics that we've discussed many, many times throughout, all the years with Aspire, talent pools and attrition and all of these things. Just a few observations before we go to a panel discussion. As I said, we don't talk enough about that topic, definitely. But if we do, if it becomes a part of the D&I agenda, we talk about challenges, we talk about issues, we don't really talk about solutions enough. And what we'd like to do with this session is really to hear some real-life examples of what is it that's happening on the ground to inspire us to continue that dialogue, either as a sector, as Aspire, or actually within our own organizations. I know I will, because when talking to my colleagues and team leaders and managers, I personally have to admit that I had no clue how big of a challenge it is and how it impacts the satisfaction of team leaders, managers, our leadership to really run those teams and really feel fulfilled, because they don't have tools, they don't have solutions. So this session is about practical examples to inspire us of how we take it forward as a discussion, because obviously we're not going to do it justice in 30 minutes or 28 now, because I've been talking for too long. One thing that I have to say as a disclaimer is, obviously this topic is going to be, may seem to be full of generalizing, stereotyping. If anybody feels like that, absolutely, apologies, this is not an intention, but we have to take it to, to a set and standard level, but that's why we need to talk about it more, so we don't generalize, we don't put solutions based on stereotypes, but real-life examples. Shall we start?
Yep. So why don't I sort of take a step back? So let's rewind 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, Yola and I had a conversation about coming into the workplace.
I was 3 years old then, yeah.
And I was only a little bit older. So going back 20 years, what was your expectation of the workplace and your employer, and how do you think that's differed now?
Yeah, I mean, I would put it as a context that I worked before, but I didn't work for, in business services sector. So I went for a big government company. So, and coming from, Generation X, I think, for me, there were three top things that were important for me. It was my family, health, and then work. And it felt like unreal that I could get a job in a corporate world, because when I was graduating, I was like, oh, wow, is this really available to me? But also, I think, I'd like to describe in the way of privilege, something that, oh, wow, that's a kind of dream come true. Still think that, by the way, because it's a lot of great growth that you have, but definitely, it was something that I needed to work on to keep going. That was like, number 3 or 4 on my priority list. So that's what it was in short. And I guess, we all know that for some, and it all depends where we come from, etc., but it has been changing. And this is something that we want to talk about today. So we've got our colleagues here on the stage. So we've got, I'll start with Eva Waleczko. She's an HR BP for AMS, and she's going to talk from HR perspective, actually. And you work with a lot of team leaders, managers, so you really have, that you're exposed to that topic. We've got Maciek Kowalczyk, who is. When I ask him, how do I introduce you? And since I'm Generation Z, but sometimes think as a millennial, so he's going to give us his perspective. And then Jamie Wood, who manages cross-generational teams and is going to talk to us about that topic and his life examples. So, same question that Vic asked me. What does work mean to you today, Maciek? Let's start with you.
Do you guys hear me? Hello, everybody. So I would be representing the challenging generations. That's a very great position. But starting maybe with what our generations would look for, definitely the change would be in seeing the workplace as something that would be engaging us and presenting us the opportunity to feel belonging. Currently, the companies wouldn't be necessarily putting that much attention into switching to the new ways of working. The strategies, the policies wouldn't change for 20 years. So there would be this feeling that there are opportunities missed, there are new ways of working, there would be remote ways of working. Actually, when I saw the numbers with the predictions for switching again to the office on-site based work, it's quite scary, both as a Generation X millennial, but as well as a recruiter, to sell those new methodologies, getting back after pandemic, getting back after, as well this new generation lived remotely because of the pandemic, because of the opportunities they've had growing up, getting on the market. I think this would be the points that would be the main objections, both as a employee and as a recruiter to approach. Always when I would be speaking with Gen Zers and with millennials or Gen Xers, there would be a difference in approaching the topic of the benefits. Different benefits would be relevant for senior candidates or senior employees, and different benefits would be relevant for the young ones. You wouldn't sell the benefit of having kindergarten to a young candidate. You would say that we have this kind of engagements, we have yoga classes, we have vegan options. This might seem funny, but it shows the consciousness of responding to the needs of the new generations, to the new way of living and new mindsets as well. So this would be the things that that would make offer more attractive. I don't know if any company can afford losing that big talent pool right now of Gen Zers. So this would be something to consider a challenge by operational sides. I'm very curious how it would be approached.
Sure. And if you, I mean, you did comment when you saw some of the stats on return to office, et cetera. It's like you actually used the words, oh my God, it's scary, because I don't see how I could do that. But what else do you see as something that, like, you look, you know, there are practices that are in our companies that are actually designed still by, you know, by people who have run them for many years. What is it that is no longer accepted in you? You look at this, it's like, why do you do it? Why is it, you know, why is it that we continue doing these things? I don't know, when it comes to management or performance management or whatever comes to your mind. It's like you open your eyes, it's like, really? Seriously?
So definitely finding a solution on connecting the team, connecting everybody. We have some people connecting to us from Puerto Rico, so it is possible. And I think being on the right level of communication, that even if it's not working, the team that I would be joining, the workplace I would be joining, would be conscious and would be paying attention, at least hearing. I think what employers needs to realize that the new generations, even us millennials and Gen Zers especially, would be the generations of reviewers online on their current everyday basis. They would have the ability to review everything. They have the power of voice, knowing the impact of a negative review. Yeah, so I think this is something to consider regarding communication, regarding changing the way we would be approaching that, and as well on the other side, not showing our workplace as a boring place. There are many ways that new generations would be aware of: virtual reality, augmented reality, even with the training sessions, with the recent Meta. Mark Zuckerberg released this really great idea of having avatars talking to themselves, so having like a new, engaging, interesting way of being innovative. So if new generations wouldn't see that innovation, they wouldn't get that interested, I think.
Okay, so we do have
Me
some
included.
serious, yeah, you included, so some serious changes there that we need to consider. We'll definitely come back with more questions. Eva, what's your view from HR perspective in terms of, first of all, what's important when it comes to work, but also what is no longer accepted that we might think is a norm?
Okay, hello everyone. I think from HR perspective, and on a daily basis, I do talk to managers, but also to individuals who come and basically do talk a lot about the expectations. I think it's worth to mention, first of all, that we know exactly what the expectations are, because this generation is very open and they do talk very, loud and transparent about what it is that is expected, which is a good thing, because then we know what we need to address and what we have to manage. We do spend much more time on talking to managers, talking to individuals, to our employees, and explaining why we do things in a certain way. I think the big expectation definitely is the ability to combine personal life and work life, and I think it's not a surprise for many of you, but might be that very often, employees would say to the line manager, I'm not coming to the call because I need to go to a yoga class, or I need to walk out the dog in the morning, or do not organize a call before 10 a.m. because I have to get a good sleep, yeah? And this is real, live examples which our team leaders then, hear, and they are coming to us to see and to check what is it, that they can do, what is it that they cannot do. On the other hand, the employees who are coming and asking us as HR, is it legally allowed that I'm being asked to do something? Yeah, so it's definitely a lot of time for us to explain, how it works and basically having this dialogue. Also, people do expect a work environment where they can talk very openly about the feelings, emotions. They do expect a line manager who will have a high level of empathy, highly developed emotional intelligence. They do not accept micromanagement, and they do not like control, which I know sounds maybe for some of you strange, but they don't want the line manager to look what they do for 8 hours per day. Yeah, they do find such workplace find it as an aggressive or obsessive. So very often then they would come to HR and would be asking, how can I put a formal claim through because my manager has been bullied me or is micromanaging. And then again, we do have to spend a lot of time to explain what the bullying is, verifying if this is happening, because of course, if it is, we have to address, but very often it's not. So things that they would be flagging is for example, I say, what is aggressive or what is obsessive? They would even be saying, well, I came back from my sick leave and no one even asked. My line manager didn't ask, how do I feel? Or the line manager is asking me to provide a report at 12, and they called me 15 minutes before to ask if the report will be there for 12, and they said, it's overwhelming. I cannot, it's aggressive. It's not 12 yet, and plus 12. Is it really 12? Can I not deliver this at 2? Would it be not okay? What do you think? So I think a lot of challenges for our team leaders and. Things which are no longer acceptable. I think something which is really holiness, I guess, to the new generation is the scope of responsibilities, scope of the role. So assigning or asking people to do something which is falling outside of the scope is definitely something which is no longer acceptable. And in different aspects, it might be covering for a colleague who is currently on leave or is struggling with the high workload, then, when the line manager is asking someone else to cover, they would be challenging and saying, why is it me? Why do I have to learn the process? Why do I have to do a job for someone else? We've had an example of an individual who was targeted. Probably many of you do have targets at in the teams, operational ones, and then she was supposed to produce like 14 offers per day in a month. So she has made some calculation and came to a senior leader on the 22nd of the month, and she said, okay, so I'm done. Because I have already done what you were kind of asking me for, so does it mean that I can, be off till the end of the month? And obviously manager said that no, because we do expect you to be at work and we do pay for 40 hours. So she said, okay, so if this is the case, I want to be the one who is now going to decide what am I going to do for the rest of the month. I don't want you as a line manager to tell me if I'm going to be covering for a colleague. I want to decide if I want to maybe do some additional trainings or if I will cover for this or this colleague or will support someone else, because it's me who will be deciding. So I think it is really something which is which is visible, and many managers are struggling, because it seems like the way how they used to manage the teams, it very often doesn't work anymore, and probably Jamie will be able to tell you a bit more. But also over time, it's something which I think we all know, it's something we can ask for as employer, it's legal and we can do it, but I think in the mindset of our employees, especially from the young generation, It's something which already doesn't exist for them. I don't know if you would agree, but I think this is again a challenge, and this is what the team leaders are saying. It cannot be mandated, possibly voluntary, but very often people would say no. They don't see coming to, I don't know, a dinner with a senior, leader who's coming to Krakow and inviting them for a dinner. They would say, I don't want to go. I have got yoga classes and I'm not going. I'm declining the invite, yes, and it's just something that they are very open about, not afraid to say it, I guess, and then expect that we will respect, yes, and so I think it has changed a lot over the time. So a big request, because I know that there is a lot of senior leaders. I think we also should be reviewing, the HR structures, because it seems like almost, it's not enough of us. I think, there's lots of queries coming, and also we do need to equip our leaders and, teach them and support them, offer some training so they are able to switch into the new ways of management, of, setting up the expectations, but then executing, motivating to get the outcome that they are supposed to deliver as a business, because we are business.
Mm-hmm. And thanks, Eva, for those examples. And just one final question, very quickly. What have you personally learned? Obviously, you've been in the business for quite some time. So what have you learned, from those situations for yourself?
Well, I think it's also, the way how people feel, it's not new, right? And I think it's something that many of us have been thinking. We are just not saying it out loud, yes, very often. So I think we all learned, and I cannot imagine myself probably going back to a 5 days working week from the office anymore, and I wouldn't go back to this. And this is definitely something I've learned from this generation. Also, learned that it's good to talk about what we expect openly, because if we don't ask, we sometimes don't get something, and we've been accepting many things, like even, I don't know, something else which I didn't mention, like getting ready for next step and career. We've been doing many extra tasks before stepping into the new role. These people are saying, give me the job, give me the promotion, give me higher salary, and this is when I'm going to do something for you. Yeah, I've been probably doing many things much more, much quicker than I was in the role, actually, yeah, as a preparation, yeah. And this is probably something I'm also learning, and probably getting smart. Also, probably not that brave as they are still, but sometimes I do ask myself the questions: is there something I could maybe ask for, or should be challenging more, and basically just talking about it openly, not being afraid that someone will, I don't know, block my promotion or find this as I don't know, just rude or too direct.
Great, thank you. Jamie, your thoughts on those two themes?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. So I think, Eva, you've hit on some really important things there, some really interesting things. I've also had my fair share of experiences with. I think definitely the workforce certainly feels to me as a manager that the workforce is a lot more open, a lot braver these days. I think there's definitely a tendency amongst people to be vocal and speak up. I've noticed myself in particular when it comes to perhaps sharing feedback with people, whether that be good, indifferent, perhaps even kind of praise, to the workforce. I think doing that in perhaps sort of like the open space, in front of colleagues, in front of peers, I noticed that people don't often react well or respond well to that kind of these days. There's often a feeling of being kind of put on the spot and not sort of feeling comfortable being in that sort of situation. And I think also particularly maybe perhaps days gone by, if someone's you have a grievance with somebody, perhaps you kind of call them out on in front of colleagues and such like. I think those times are perhaps have gone some way. So, don't expect to, your workforce to be sort of, quiet and passive these days. People will certainly challenge back. They're brave enough to do so. So I think kind of, choosing your moments as a manager and getting your timing right in terms of when you kind of deliver certain messages and feedback to people, I think certainly super important. Other thing I just wanted to sort of mention is I very much get the feeling that people don't kind of enjoy the surprises so much these days. Kind of what you were saying, Eva. I think asking them to maybe do perform an ad hoc task, something which is maybe slightly more out of scope in terms of what someone would do in a day-to-day. I feel as a manager, you've kind of almost needing to invest more time, more energy in sort of, explaining, talking someone through why it has to be there and why it's perhaps, no one else that can actually do that particular task. There's certainly an expectation that, there needs to be a thorough explanation. And then it's often met with, okay, well, I kind of do that for you, but then what's very much kind of in it for me? What do I kind of get in return? So those are my couple of initial observations. Yeah.
Thank you. One thought that I was when I was listening to you, Jamie, is we all talk about the changing role of a leader, and in that context, there is also a different approach to be a leader in cross-generational teams. So I think that's quite an important one for us to reflect and think about how do we take it forward. Anything else from anyone in the panel? Otherwise, I'll hand over to Vic for some summary and thoughts. Eva?
I think I've got one more, because I think it's also very important that we do understand and acknowledge that those people think differently, yes? And when we make decisions as leaders, then we have to remember and also take this into considerations then just to prepare on how to manage, because they will not look at this the same way as we do. And just one more maybe example, we've had a new joiner who was sent for an induction program to one of our clients in Switzerland, and the client obviously have done a great job. In their opinion, after all, this is how it looked like. They did say they gave the opportunity for the individual to meet the colleagues in the team. They've organized a trip to a chocolate, factory in Switzerland. They invited the employee for the dinner, organized the whole trip. And when the employee came back, they actually came to HR to put the complaint through, because they said, "What is it, Eva? How was it organized? I had to get up at 5 a.m. because I had an early flight. Then I was expected to be in the office at 9 a.m., fully, ready to work, etc. They asked me to go to the chocolate factory, which was, ridiculous. I didn't enjoy it at all. And after work, I couldn't go to my hotel to get some rest. I actually had to go and join, the dinner with the senior stakeholders from the client. I think it was not very good and well organized. So, it's like the same situation and two different perceptions, yes? Because our senior leaders then called me as well to say that the employee was not grateful at all, and also communicated even to the client how unhappy they were, which obviously made the client very, very nervous and frustrated. And then we had to manage the client. So, the client thought and we thought, we've done a great job on induction. The new joiner said, no, you didn't. It was actually a really poor experience. Yes? So it is also about, understanding, taking into consideration those different perspective, and then, as you said, communicate and then address, and obviously takes more effort to show the reasons why we want them to do something or ask them to do something, and look at this.
Thank you. And obviously these are quite extreme and single examples, and I think that's the point of that our teams on the floor have to deal with that on daily basis, and I think it's our role and our learning, how to actually start, talking about solutions there, and really understanding, and also making our organization understand that those 4 generations that are working in our organizations, they're going to shift. And we're gonna have more and more talent pool coming with that mindset. So we've got to adjust that to make sure that we continue to succeed. So that the reason why we gave all of those examples is really to kind of reflect how do we approach it, both from the organizational perspective and also the industry. Vic, over to you for final comments.
So just a couple of thoughts. This morning we heard from Rakesh about BPO, whether it's dead or captive. We heard about hybrid working, remote working, and about culture of an organization. And if you start adding the dots as a leader, we've got to adapt. Change is coming, change is here. We can't fight it. You've got 3 generations of workforce that we've got to manage, whether it be hybrid, whether it be remote. But our board, our shareholders want exactly the same outcomes. That hasn't changed, whether it be 30% growth year on year, if you're private equity, or just shareholder value, share price growth. How are we going to do that in the current climate of different expectations from our workforce? And that is something as leaders we have to stay relevant. We have to start thinking about what those solutions are. And it's from an Inspire perspective, collectively, let's come up with those solutions. Let's think about that, because it's not just about retention, it's about attraction as well. So if we're going to grow, and whether AI comes in and takes all our jobs in, I'm not sure, but whichever way it happens, we have to stay relevant. And this is our biggest challenge, our workforce. And how are we going to manage in a different world? 30 years ago, somebody was falling sick. Here's some Lemsip Yola. I'm sure you'll be better tomorrow. So you can't work that way anymore. We have to be thinking about people's feelings, their mental health. Everything comes through that. So us as leaders, we have to change, and we can't fight it.